generalizations, but for the women that come to me, big ways that we hand our power over. I'm not good enough as I am. I need to eat less so that he chooses me. I need to make more money so that he chooses me. I need to be more feminine so that he chooses me. There's this constant energy of not enoughness, and then I must get more to be more so that he chooses me, and then I'll be happy. That's a huge way we hand our power out.
Welcome to the 1000 Day Sober Podcast. My name is LeeDavy. I'm not an alcoholic. I refuse to be anonymous. I never drink alcohol and I live a self-led life. And I spend every single moment of that life helping other people do the same. Like right now, my guest today is Bek Antonucci. She is a woman's confidence coach and the host of the Raw, Vulnerable and Real podcast. I met Bek during my master life coaching training at the Elementum Coaching Institute, and I've always respected the courage that she's shown in leaning into the vulnerability and sharing the darkest moments of her story, which eventually acts as a beacon of light to people also in that darkness, but they don't really have the courage or the confidence to do anything about it, to be able to step out into that light. Bek is a leading light in this space, and she is doing very well for herself, and she is changing the lives of a lot of women out there, okay? In this episode, we talk about preparing some space in your life and welcoming in your king. We talk about seeing the world through the lens of our thoughts. We talk about victim consciousness, pattern interrupting, being your biggest cheerleader, the relevancy radar. We talk about Bek's history with eating disorders, herpes. We talk about shame, bravery, internal boundaries, and the power of sharing. We talk about how women can hand their power over to men and what to do about that. The difference between the outside in and the inside out game, the process of curating your self-awareness, making radical change quickly and easily or not, the importance of having people to support you when making changes, how alcohol is rarely the problem, what to do when you're changing your friendship groups, the core need to belong, when to decide to stay or leave a relationship, honoring your truth, and some pieces of advice to women who have a victim mentality when it comes to their money story. So without further ado, I'll shut the hell up and leave you in the capable hands of the very beautiful, the very smart, the very cool Bek Antonucci. I like to record the preamble, as they say. What have you been up to? You're in Bali these days?
Oh, I've been I broke up with my boyfriend. I've done my eat, pray, love thing in Bali. I left Perth. I've been in Austin, Texas for 3 months. I'm getting my artist visa to be able to move there with my podcast. But my husband is looking for me, so I don't really know where I'm actually going to end up, because I'm assuming wherever he primarily lives is probably where I'm going to end up primarily living. Well, I will. And so, yeah, just life.
I mean, excited. Let's start there, actually, because I've been following your social media, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it feels like you are open to your king stepping into your kingdom and doing his thing. How does, for somebody listening to this who is thinking, how the heck do I meet somebody, or I never meet somebody? I mean, I used to be like that when I was younger, especially women. What's the process for you? How do you get into that space?
I've had this readiness hit my body this year that I've never felt before. And the only thing that it's the difference between wanting. Some women come to me and they want a partner. I feel ready. And I just have this internal knowing that he's coming. Like, I know he's looking for me. I really believe that women don't go out hunting for the man. We do our work to get ourselves into a beautiful vibrational state that feels really good for us. Like, if we're like, oh, when he comes and I'll be so relaxed, or I'll be so this, or I'll be so that, I really feel the work is us getting into that energy now before he comes, versus being like, once he's here, then I will. And I've just been doing my work to make sure that I've healed any pains around men, any resentments that I was holding, any hurts around ex-partners, and just really making sure that I'm in a place where I love men again. And doing the work as well to desire partnership. There's three consciousnesses of relationship, and one can be very transactional. You do this for me, I do this for you. But I really desire now for him to find me, and I'm so excited to love him for how he feels to be loved by me. Whereas a past hurt version of me would have been like, what can you do for me? How are you going to meet my needs? How are you going to love me to make my life better? And I'm not saying that's wrong, but that was still coming from pain and wounding. Whereas now I'm like, I'm just so excited to love you. So I deserve to love someone the way I love to love. And I can't wait for him to receive it.
It sounds like the word that came up to my mind and the feeling was like victim. It's almost like a lot of people, they are in victim consciousness when it comes to, oh, poor me, I can't find a man. And so that energy is being emitted. And what I'm hearing from you is, if that is the case, then work on that victim part of you to get clear of that energy, to allow you to get into a different space, a different energy. Does that resonate with you, this victim thing?
Yeah, almost. I love saying we see the world through the lens of our thoughts. So if we believe that if our thoughts are very scarce, you might call it scarcity energy, could call it victim energy. Men are bad, men are shit, men are abusers, men are cheaters, men are liars. There are not a lot of good men out there. If I hold that belief system within me, then I'm going to look out at the world and see that. Whereas I believe I have an abundance and a very abundant mentality. And so for me, I'm like, there are so many great men. And it's not just about finding a great man. It's about my person finding me, because I don't feel at age 36 I'm dating to get a boyfriend. I could date a great guy, but I'm ready for my partner. And so it would be really great for anyone listening that's resonating to think, what kind of thoughts am I seeing the world through? And if they're limited thoughts, if they're scarce thoughts, if they're coming from a place of victim consciousness, well, then of course your external reality is showing you that, until you do the work to change that internally.
What advice would you give to somebody who is currently single, female, really struggling, is in victim consciousness? What are maybe one or two things that they should be doing immediately, do you think, Bek?
Yeah, I would, super easy is write a self-worth script, something in present tense. I was telling one of my clients today, we have scooters in Bali. So no one has cars, everyone's on scooters. And I'm like this crazy person that drives around town chatting to herself. And I say so many beautiful things about my life and what I'm stepping into, but from present tense. I love my life. I love my partner. I love myself. I call only good humans into my life. Only good men, only good men, only good men. I'm treated with so much love, care, and respect because I love, care, and respect myself. And I say this over and over, and it comes naturally to me because I've done this so many times throughout my life. As I will write something, if I'm really not feeling great about myself, and I still have moments, I'm human, I think we all do, we never escape them, but I'll vision myself 12 months from now and I'll ask her to speak to me, and I'll write that script from her, and then I'll say it out loud and out loud and out loud, just to change my way of thinking.
And I imagine, explain to the people at home as well, while you're doing that, going through that process, you're connecting thoughts to feeling as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do believe that thoughts become things. And so our external reality will start to represent the world. And I was actually listening to an Alex Hormozy podcast the other day, and he said, bad things don't come in threes. A bad thing happens, and then we make meaning out of that bad thing, and then we create more bad things, versus being like, whoa, human experience, something's happening that doesn't feel good. And rather than attaching to it and then being like, and this is because there are no good men in the world. And this is because my ex-boyfriend did cheat on me. And that's because my dad did leave when he was 3. Then we get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And then we've walked out of the house, spilled coffee on ourselves, hit the curb with our car, dented our, whatever the front of the car is called. And all these things continue to happen. We're like, why do bad things happen to me? But there's no pattern interrupt of like, oh, this doesn't feel great. And do I actually really want to stay in this energy of just putting myself down, putting myself down, putting myself down? Or would I love to pattern interrupt it and try on something new? So I can actually, just like you said, so those thoughts can then anchor to a feeling. So I drive, by the time I get to the gym on my scooter, I'm like, whoa, let's go, because I've charged myself with so many people. I'm like my biggest cheerleader of like, no, nothing's going to get me down. Let's go, baby.
There's a mentalist in the UK called Derren Brown. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No.
And there was a show that he created around luck. And there was basically, I'll cut the long story short, but there was a butcher who lived in his village who said he had bad luck.
Yes.
And everyone around him said, yeah, he is a really unlucky guy. So Derren Brown, this mentalist, he created various different scenarios where he would give him stuff. He would give him good luck, right? Like he would put money in front of the butcher shop. So when he went out, he would see it. He posted winning lottery tickets through his door so he could open them and scratch it and win, right? But this guy missed every single sign. Like he walked past these things. He didn't see them. And Derren Brown was like saying, if you're not prepared and you're not available to see the signs that are out there, then you're going to think it's bad luck. But really, you're not. You're walking through life with your head down. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I believe that we have a relevancy radar, like basically on our forehead, looking to prove what we believe to be true about the world. So if it's like, I'm a beautiful, healthy woman and I went through severe disordered eating all through my 20s. And I had this narrative, I'm fat. And when I looked in the mirror, I would see disgust because that's what my internal thought was saying. And so my relevancy radar would look around the world to prove that belief to be true. If you see photos and videos of me, objectively, it's not. But that's actually what I felt and what I saw. And so it's no difference to if we sat by the side of the road right now and I said to you, point out all the red cars, you're going to point out all the red cars. Be like, oh, 11 just drove past. Okay, now point out the blue. Oh, you didn't tell me to look for the blue. No, literally no different. So if we're like, only bad things happen to me, of course. Oh, that person cut me off in traffic. Oh, there's a dent in my car after I parked it at the shops. Oh, this bag of oranges is bad. Bad shit always happens to me. Or sometimes not great things happen. Like I don't even like playing the good, bad game. Not great things happen that always feel good, but is life actually about always feeling good 24/7? Or just being the full spectrum of the human and knowing that sometimes things happen that we don't love and great things are possible too, if we're willing to see them and also be available for them. That person that says, bad luck happens to me and there's a winning lotto ticket in my doorway, maybe he's not available for the winning lotto ticket. That isn't what he actually wants for his life.
You're speaking to an audience of people who mainly are alcohol reliant or they have overcome alcohol reliance. And you talked about eating disorder as well. So there'll be plenty of people here who have also suffered and suffer for the same thing. Was there a light bulb moment or a particular thing that actually, I imagine you tried lots of different ways of trying to overcome this, and that's what usually happens with people. And then things don't work, some things do. What was the moment, the thing for you that really changed it?
I had an ex-boyfriend that we went away to New Zealand and he sat me down and he was like, Rebecca, the way you are with food is ruining our relationship and our enjoyment of life. So we're going to have to try on something new because this can't happen anymore. So that was one piece because he was like, I want to help you and I don't know how. Like he tried like threatening to break up with me. If you do this again, I will break up. I did it again. Like that wasn't a big enough wager. So that was really impactful for me that something has to change because the way that I'm being is impacting the people that I love most. And then I still wasn't through it. I was better, but definitely not through it. And then the herpes virus happened to me. And that really felt like the rug pulled from underneath me I felt that any little bit of worth that I had left was ripped from me. Anything that would have me loved, liked, celebrated in society was taken from me. I believe that my beauty was ripped from me, that no man would desire me, that no man would ever choose me for partnership again. And that my core wound, I had been really bullied in high school. The girls were really nasty to me. And so my biggest fear was just not fitting in and not having friends and not being liked because that had been my reality for day in, day out for so many years. That when that happened to me, all the limiting thoughts of I'm disgusting, I'm unlovable, no man will ever love me, women will never be friends with me, they all came flying to the surface. And that was louder than the eating disorder. that I realized that this is the eating disorder reincarnate. This is the eating disorder 2.0. The eating disorder made me feel disgusting. Like I would binge food and then purge bottles of laxatives, and I would be sick in the bathroom and pass out in the bathroom, and then wake up covered in my own vomit, not even know how I got there because I just eaten myself into oblivion and really have no memory or recollection of it. That when the herpes virus happened, I was like, this is the eating disorder 2.0. And so how am I actually creating this? What is the pain internally that I'm running from that is creating this manifestation of this pain? Because I can't live like this anymore. I need to do something about it. That was really the turning point for me.
Thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Very raw and very honest and very vulnerable. And that's part of it, right? Like part of it is finding that courage, that vulnerability to be able to speak your truth, share the very human element, because everything you described there is like human, but the society casts such a terrible, horrific shadow over it that we dare not walk out into the spotlight and grab the mic, So, I think what you're doing is really amazing in that respect. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I mean, one of my mentors who Preston Smiles, he says, what is most personal is most universal. Of the eating disorder, like I must be the only person that the amount of food that I would consume was just stupid. And it wasn't like I was enjoying it. And maybe your listeners will resonate with this. I wasn't enjoying it, but it wasn't satiating the desire. But once I started, it was this consumption, this compulsion. I couldn't stop until it got to a point where I was basically broken. And then I would think, what did I do? And what was I trying to get? But nothing even tasted delicious. But because it didn't taste good and I'd already kind of ripped the Band-Aid, I just kept going and kept going. I was searching for something, a feeling, and it would never come. There was nothing that tasted the way that I wanted that taste to make me feel. I was horribly ashamed by it. And then the same thing with herpes. I just thought I was the only woman, horribly ashamed by it. And when Preston says now what is most personal is most universal, it just rings so true for me. Like our ego will convince us into believing I'm the only one that has done this or acts like this or treats someone like this or is going through this, whatever it is. But really, there's no escaping the human experience. I'm sure there are people right now who haven't gone through what I've gone through, but are like, I resonate, different vehicle, same feelings.
Yeah, I remember when we were both on Elementum, and I don't know if you remember this, because we were all in different groups, but we had a session around sex, and I think Preston was leading it actually. And he said he wanted people to just share anything that they had around sexual shame. And in the beginning, it was a little bit quiet. And then one person put their hand up and shared a story. And then before you knew it, there's like 99 people desperate to like just offload the most like varied different forms of sexual shame, but each one of them landed to me as being normal, but the whole world outside of that vacuum of 99 people would not have allowed that to happen, right? Like there's some power in understanding the perfectly imperfect nature of humanity, but also finding a group of people like-minded who have had similar experiences, even if that experience is being open and being transparent,
Yeah, I love this way of being. People tell me all the time I'm so brave, but because I've been like this now for so long and basically stepped out of my own mental prison, like got the key and walked out, there's like, it just feels so natural to me. I'll be sitting at a communal coffee shop in Perth. It's originally where I'm from. Right now I'm in Bali, and someone at the communal coffee shop will look at me and be like, "Are you Bek Antonucci?" I'll be like, "Yeah." And then they'll whisper across the table, "I love what you're doing. I have herpes too." And my friends will be looking at me and be like, "Can we go anywhere with just like someone not running up to us and letting us know that they have herpes?" I'm like, "No, but how do I?" Just let's talk. And people will be like, "You're so brave." I'm like, actually, it's so much easier to live like this and be considered brave. It was brave to begin with, but now it's easy. Now it's easeful. There's no bravery required. It just feels good.
Yeah, I'm always have spoken my truth. Particularly, I would say being an inspiration around overcoming alcohol reliance and being really comfortable in leading that way and talking with pride. And I have a load of clients who are really afraid of the world, really. They're afraid of saying anything and that thing being used against them. I don't think I could remember anything being used against me. Like anything that I've said, it's just not happened to me. And I'm pretty sure that has something to do with my energy and the way that I view the world. I don't know what your experience has been in that.
I wasn't afraid of it being used against me. I was afraid of it being used as a way to never be chosen, never be accepted. Like I've always been very much like, I am who I am. I know what I say. I know what I do. Even if I F it up, I'll own what I did. Like I said it. I did the thing. Probably wasn't the best choice at the time, but that's what I did. And it's never about it being used against, but more that love would be taken, that acceptance would be taken, that belonging wouldn't be possible for me. That's what my fear was. Were you always so open, or did you ever have a time where you felt like you couldn't share with everything you've been through?
Sure. The only time, I mean, that's not the only time because I don't want to play in the black and white here. The thing that comes up to me most was something around sex that I was really ashamed of. That when I was in Elementum and I was being coached in my trios, I couldn't speak. I was like, I couldn't get it out. I was being coached by two women. And the way that I got around it was speaking to Stephanos. So I ended up going to a man and sharing to a man. And then I went back to the two women, and then I was able to share the two women. But it surprised me and shocked me that I couldn't reveal myself in front of them. That's the one thing that comes to mind initially.
Interesting. I love that you've always been so open. You're a rare gem.
I think it's part of my dysfunction, though.
Yeah.
I think that when I was really young, I was Chinese, half Chinese, growing up in a white community, English in Wales, with lots of people hating that difference, but from a real ignorant place, right? So I think what I did was I rebelled against that, and I wanted to prove to people that I was not as bad as they thought I was, that there was nothing wrong with me. So the way that I did that was to say, I had this really high moral ethical code. I am really human, and I'm going to use my rationality and my logic to explain to you everything I do, the way I behave. If I get everything out there, then I've got no secrets, no skeletons in my closet. You cannot hate me. And so it was very much a part of my dysfunction, you know? And that actually leads to a question I have here for you, because I know you're very transparent. I am as well. And I remember reading something with Brené Brown once, and she was talking about transparency versus revealing too much. And I got to be honest, I was a little bit confused, right? I was like, I can't see how it can be too much. Has that ever been leveled at you, or have you ever had an internal conflict around that transparency versus revealing too much?
People ask me that all the time. And actually, one of my clients said that to me this morning. And I believe that it's within our own internal boundaries. I'm an open book. It's who I am as a person. If you tell me don't share that, that's against my natural way of being. It doesn't feel true for me. But if we're an air quotes oversharer, we get to ask where it's coming from. I really believe in really being connected to the energy from which we do things. So if my energy of oversharing, I don't even know what the energy really could be for it to be something that's not going to serve you. But for me, as long as it's coming from authenticity and it feels good for me, it feels hard to close a book that's so open.
Yeah, I think what comes up for me there is the approval piece. So I guess when I was younger, there would be times when I would maybe overshare in order to receive approval. Yes. Maybe also a little bit of fawning in that. Actually, recently, my wife sent me a podcast on fawning, and she's like, I think this is you. And I listened to it several times. I was like, no, I think I've healed, and I don't think that is me. I just think I naturally am a very nice, giving person. If I see a woman struggling down the street, I'll go to help her. And I'm not doing it because I want her approval anymore, but I definitely seen that in myself. So I agree with you. It's that self-reflection, isn't it? It's like, okay, where is this coming from? Like I use a line metaphor. Am I above the line or am I below the line? You know, if I'm above the line, it's okay. If I'm below the line, I need to do some work on it.
Yeah. Even, my business has been doing, I know, well as subjective, but well for me, and I'm really proud of it. And it did stem from the big energetic opening for the abundance to be called in was from the time at which I shared about herpes live on the internet. So now lots of people confide in me privately. Some women who have herpes, who haven't blown up their businesses, like I have, are all like, maybe like they're like, what's the next thing that I need to do? Should I share? Do I need to share my herpes diagnosis on the internet? Is that the thing that will make me money? And that's where I wouldn't call talking about it online oversharing. But when I did it, it was from the energy and the intention to free myself. It wasn't like, I'm going to share this on the internet and I'm going to get successful. And that's the different, that kind of like proving, or I'm sharing to get energy. I'm talking to get energy versus I'm talking because this is just, I'm an open book and this feels coherent and aligned. That would probably be what I would tune into to find if my sharing is aligned with me.
Yeah, it's almost like exposure. It's almost like exposure therapy, right? It's like I'm chained in this prison, and because I'm worried about the shame that I will experience if I out myself as being reliant on alcohol or out myself as having a sexually transmitted disease, I'm worried about that shame. And then it's like, and this is where me and you have been fortunate to have mentors who say, oh, that's your prison. Well, in the next 24 hours, I want you to go out there and fucking tell the world, right? Because you're testing it, right? You're like, okay, I fucking feel terrified, but I'm going to do it. And then, holy shit, what happened? I didn't get shame. I got love. And now you can start to trust a little bit more about the world. And now slowly that little rock starts, or that little snowball starts to become a bigger snowball, an avalanche. And before you know it, people are coming up to you in restaurants saying, hey, you Bek Antonucci. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it doesn't happen often, but I have it here and there where actually it happens to me in Bali as well. But I'm like, sometimes my friends are about being with a famous person. I'm like, well, Perth and Bali is quite small.
I like it. In what ways with your clients do you see women losing their power?
I mean, to full circle back to where we started about the relationship, once he comes, then I will be happy. Then my life will begin. And so I do believe that it'll be so beautiful when my partner arrives, but also my life is being lived right now fully. And if I'm waiting on him to come for my happiness to be here, what if we have a fight? What if he has a hard year? And what if he leaves me? What then my happiness is gone again? I think when the partner comes, then I will feel is a really big way we hand our power out. Body image, Instagram, feeling like we need to attain more and more things to be valuable to a man. I feel like there are lots of common ways, like big generalizations, but for the women that come to me, big ways that we hand our power over. I'm not good enough as I am. I need to eat less so that he chooses me. I need to make more money so that he chooses me. I need to be more feminine so that he chooses me. There's this constant energy of not enoughness, and then I must get more to be more so that he chooses me. And then I'll be happy. That's a huge way we hand our power out.
It sounds like a lot like playing the outside-in game, right? Like I'm at the whim of the world. In order for me to feel power, and I don't think power is a bad thing. You know what I mean? I think again, it's black and white, right? And playing the shades of grey on this, but it sounds like they're trying to go outside themselves. So, what are the obstacles that are in their way, and how do you help them to reclaim that power? How do you do that?
Well, first bringing awareness to it. Some of us don't even know what we're doing. The outside in game is exactly it. Once I get X, then I will feel, and then doing the work to get to create the energy of feeling first, to be the embodiment of that versus you're going to come into my life and fulfill me, creating internal fulfillment. Because I believe we get to have the externalized result. We get to have the partner and the business and the bank balance and the body. Of course, yes, we deserve it. That's what you want. Amazing. But if it's the thing that makes you worthy and good, what if it all goes away? What if it gets ripped from you? So that's one. And I love the conversation around awareness precedes choice. We have to identify. A lot of women come to me and be like, I don't know why I am the way that I am, but it's not working. And I have the things that should make me happy, but I'm not feeling it. Or I want him and I know that it's not great that I want him, but I really believe that he's coming to save me. I don't want to be saved. I've done enough reading to know that if I'm waiting for my partner to save me, I'm setting our relationship up for failure from the get-go. So great. We start with creating huge amounts of awareness around what we're actually doing. Awareness precedes choice. Once we have awareness, why we are the way that we are, we have an opportunity to make a new choice. We can have a look at what those choices might be, getting you into alignment with the energy that you feel that thing will bring you once you get it. And then I believe that awareness plus choice equals change. And then we can do the work to create change in your reality.
Are you ready to become alcohol-free as fuck and live a self-led life? If so, join our 6-month Strive Method experience, a journey packed with world-class coaching videos, weekly group sessions with myself and my team, and Strive quests that help you embody real change, not just intellectually understand it. For more details, email me at thestrivemethod@gmail.com. Now, back to the podcast. Yeah, I think self-awareness is really, really crucial. And I guess it will happen differently for everybody. You know what I mean? I mean, like if you just take alcohol, for example, somebody will become as alcohol reliant. At some point, they have to be aware enough that they have a problem. Like they have to, it's almost like you have to turn, you have to connect. It's like a car, it's like a car wiring system or something. You have to connect your intuition to your brain. Like there's a lead that's missing and you need to connect it and be like, oh, fuck, right? I have a problem with alcohol. Oh, fuck, I have a problem with overeating. And now I want to do something about it. So interesting how humans work, honestly.
And I'm not sure what it's like with alcohol, but for me, the food was, because I was restrictive dieting so much, the food was kind of a gradual process before it was like, oh, this is so bad. So it was like restrictive dieting, driving home from the petrol station, from the gym one day and thinking, I would like an ice cream. And being like, do I really want to give into the ice cream? Okay, I'm going to give into the ice cream, buying the ice cream, getting in the car, eating the ice cream, not even really eating it, shoveling it down because I haven't had sugar in so long. And then driving. Then this sensation kicks in of like, I want more ice cream. So then stopping at another petrol station before I get home and getting another ice cream and a bag of lollies. And then getting home and I've eaten 2 ice creams and a bag of lollies. Then getting home and looking in the fridge and being like, oh, maybe I'll just eat that chocolate too. And then that was it. And being like, that was a lot, seeing as I hadn't had that much in a long time. That was a lot subjective to the restriction that I was doing. I won't do that again. Next weekend comes, could do it once a week. I could get another ice cream. Well, ice cream and a bag of lollies. So first petrol station, ice cream, bag of lollies. Drive home, other petrol station, another ice cream, another bag of lollies. Get home, 2 chocolate bars and maybe some ice cream in the freezer. Won't do that again for another week. It's okay. Just once a week is fine. And then all of a sudden that Sunday grows out. It used to just be a few hours and then it's half a day. Then it becomes a whole day. And then it became a weekend binge. And then the weekend binge became Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then it started becoming weeks on end. And it was like, I didn't even know this was a problem. And it just all of a sudden was like, how did it get to here? That was my experience of binge eating.
Yeah, it's like it sounds like it's like very automatic, very autonomous, and but in between that there are brief moments of self-awareness. So the same thing happens with alcohol. Is the trick really is to really create some space between stimulus and response, right? So stimulus is I feel triggered right now, or I have a desire or a thought to drink or eat food. And what I got to do is I got to not react to that. And the longer I don't react to it, and the more I can have space between it, the less I'll realize that my body can handle life without it. But obviously you've got to fill that space up with other shit other than drinking. And what tends to happen to most people is because they don't necessarily make a decision to stop drinking or stop drinking forever. So there's still a part of them that holds out that they'll be able to drink, quote unquote, normally, right? And this is why it's really difficult with overeating, because you can't stop eating food, right? But you can't stop drinking alcohol, right? You cannot stop eating food. You have to eat food. So
I know, and I feel really awful to say this on your podcast, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I used to say I wish I was an alcoholic or a drug addict, because you could just cold turkey that. And I'm not, don't minimize, you can't just cold turkey, but my belief was like, I could just be like, I'm never drinking that again. But I was just like, I wish I could never eat food ever again for the rest of my life, because it's ruining me. And it just was eating me alive.
Yeah. And I think what you said there is perfectly fine for our audience. And I'll explain why in a minute. But so, what happens is people, they're very automatic. So and this is where self-awareness is really important, because if you are self-aware, you have said to yourself, I'm never going to drink again. For some people, I'm not going to drink today. For some people, I'm not going to drink for 30 days, right? Now your self-awareness is just peaked up because you set yourself a little goal, little target. And now when you start to think like you're going to drink, your mind goes to, well, hang on a minute. I just said I was never going to drink again. Do I really, let's fucking shape up here and get into awareness. What tools has Lee or Bek given me to kind of like maybe tapping or some breathing exercises to just give myself that pause? But usually we don't have the pause because it's very habitual, because that's what we've always done to keep ourselves safe, right? I ask you a question. You just said there about that alcoholics can't go cold turkey, I believe
I can, but I don't want to lessen like how hard it may be for someone by me being like, oh, you could just go cold turkey and it's easy. I don't mean it from that context. I know that you can.
Yes. No, but I'm gonna say that you can. So look, and I want to ask you your opinion on this as well, because I'll share my opinion and ask your opinion.
Tell me.
I think problems that we have, in this case, overeating or alcohol, I think society or systems make it very complicated, make it very difficult, make it very challenging. And that suits the part of us that need to use those substances to keep safe, right? Because like, if I have a part of me that is using alcohol all the time to keep myself safe, and you come along and say to me, actually, it's really easy to quit alcohol, I cannot believe that, because if I believe that, then what fucking idiot am I that I've actually been hooked on this shit for so long, right? But my reality is, I drank alcohol for over 2 decades. I was drinking daily towards the end of it. And when I said enough was enough, I quit, and it was easy. And people are like, but it can't be easy. It's like, no, it fucking can be easy. So what I wanted to ask you is, and this is very controversial to a lot of people out there, and probably a lot of people listening to this, but please have an open mind. What is your opinion about radical fucking change, really fucking quick and immediate, versus, oh no, this is going to take a long time. This is going to take ages, take your time. Like, what is your personal opinion on that? I'm really interested.
I just think it's so situational dependent. Like for me, I cold turkey. Do you know what? Cold turkeying sugar was easy. That was easy. I'm sick of this shit. This pain is unbearable. I'm not eating sugar again. But then I could not eat sugar for 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and then it would come back. So the not having it for a period of time, that was easy, but it would always find its way back into my life. So for me with sugar, I had to recreate a relationship with it. That was hard. Understanding what was driving me to reach for the sugar, that was hard. But once I had an awareness, and I guess the thing is that I wonder, would it have been hard if I had the right mentor who was able to support me to the right place straight away for me to actually have those understandings? But at that time, I didn't know anyone in personal development. I didn't know what personal development was. So my experiences was hard, really hard. And the herpes piece, doing it and telling people that I had it, was hard, but every day after that, it was so easy. But the lead up to it, even in the Hormozy podcast the other day, he said people take 5 times as long to do the thing that they know is good for them but don't want to do. And in the meantime, could have done so many other great things. Like we spend a longer amount of time avoiding doing the thing than doing the thing. And that's the part that's hard. And, believing that it's hard can keep us in a lot of avoidance.
This is what I liked about Elementum, is when you had something that you felt was hard, and then someone would come up and say, do it right now. And you would just challenge to do it right now. Whereas if you didn't have that challenge, you probably, the parts inside of you that were so afraid of the consequences of taking this action would have like prolonged it. But the radical change was really, really possible. Like I hear you. Like it's very subjective. And I think for me,
also, we're so sorry to cut you off. We're so supported that if someone in Elementum says, go and do it now, tomorrow you've got support there. But if I had a woman on my Instagram and I was like, because I get DMs all day long, and I was like, go and do it now, but she doesn't have support on the other side, when if all your fears come up of like, oh my God, I just shared on the internet, what's my mum going to think? Was my worst enemy from high school? Was my ex-girlfriend from 10 years ago? If you've got support to be like, I'm here for you, let's like unpack that. Amazing. Doesn't need to be hard because you've got support. But if we rip the Band-Aid and then threw someone in the deep end and said, learn how to swim by yourself, see you later, sayonara, bitches, then I think ripping the Band-Aid with no support on the other side, that is hard.
Yeah. It's like I had a client yesterday, and I just knew deep down in my gut and my heart that this guy could just do it. I just knew it. I just felt really confident in that space to say to him, what would happen if we made that decision right now to never drink again? What would happen? And what we found was, and what I think really helped him, was to understand that he didn't have an alcohol problem. He had an anxiety problem. He didn't have an alcohol problem. He had an anxiety problem. And alcohol was actually creating more anxiety. And once he realized, fuck, I don't have an alcohol problem. I do have an anxiety problem, and alcohol has exacerbated it. It really helped him to take up the challenge and say, you know what? Let's fucking do it, right? Let's give it a go. But it is really difficult because it's this failure, right? Like if you just take me and the guy's dynamic, I don't want to fail as a coach. I don't want to be like, oh my God, I just told him that he could do it and now he hasn't done it and he feels shame. He doesn't want to take the leap because he doesn't want to feel shame that he let his coach down. So there's all this mess that prevents you from just fucking doing the do and being okay if it doesn't happen, Bek, right? Like if he comes back to me next week and say, I gave it a go and it didn't work. Okay, no problem. Well done for giving it a go. I fucking love you, man. You're brave. You did it. Now let's see what comes up next. So I do think it's available for people. I think it's inside everybody, but the support there, yeah, really important. Like I don't think things have to be as hard as we make them out to be. I don't know. Maybe I'm being an optimist.
No, I love it. I'm a yes to it. And I also think it's about expanding our mindset, being around people that are expanders for us, that show us what's possible. Like my income that I generated in June, at one stage I would have dreamed to have generated it in a year. And, thinking of doubling that year income would have felt so hard. And now I'm like, I just did that in 1 month. Like, wow. And now, and the knowing that it's possible and realizing that I can now, I'm like, if I thought this way back then would be so hard, but now I'm like, oh, and with ease, what's possible for me on the other side of that? So I do feel supporting ourselves to create a subconscious narrative of I'm winning and be around people that expand our mindsets to show us what's possible. So if people have eating disorders or a challenge with alcohol and they're around people who are finding it hard, or women that go full circling to beginning, I will not go for dinner with women that sit around talking shit about men. I'm in Bali, there's lots of playboys here, lots of men in their 30s and 40s that want to act like they're 25 for the rest of their lives. Awesome, good on them. You do that. If I was a single guy, maybe I would do that in another lifetime too. Not the man for me, but still, you look like you're having fun. Not my problem. I don't need to engage with you. But they'll sit at the table and talk about how crap men are. Not the women for me. I'm going to go and hang around people who have incredible relationships, who have expansive mindsets, who date confidently, and who have what I want. I'm not going to go and put my mindset into a group of humans that are going to bring my mindset down. So if there are people that have what you want, that are doing it with ease, they could teach you to do that too. Because both are going to exist. The person that's challenged and finding it so hard, and the person that's challenged and is like, you know what, Lee? You say that's easy. Can you help me? Can you show me how to do it? Because I'm ready.
Well, that what you just said there is like really important, again, for the alcohol reliant community, because one of the things that actually stops people from quitting is the fear that they'll lose all their friends. And what I found, I mean, I'm just going to tell my personal story, is like what I found was that wasn't a big deal, because what I realized when we parted ways, and I would say that was more on me than my friends, was I realized that the connection that I thought was there was nowhere near as deep as I thought it was. It was almost like I had made friends out of my dysfunction, and my friends loved my dysfunction, and I wasn't that guy anymore. So we just had nothing in common. And then I was just like, okay, one, I realized I don't need as many friends as I think I do. And two, the friends that I'm going to bring into my life, it's not going to be by default like these guys were. It's going to be by design. Like I am literally going to choose and design the friendships I want. And when I talk to some people who are unconscious about this, they think I'm fucking nuts, right? That's manipulative. No, it's not. I know the type of person I want to be. I want to be my friend, and I'm going to call them in the same way that I would call in a woman if I was single, you know? So I love that you said that. Give me more on friendships. Give me more on attracting people, because there's a lot of people out there listening to this that are fucking shitting themselves, that if they stop drinking, they'll be alone.
Yeah. And I think number one, just normalizing that's so human of you. We all have a core human need to belong. I don't care who you are, we all do. And that comes from actually one of our instincts to survive. You know, human versus saber-toothed tiger. If you're on your own, that tiger is going to rip your head off and you're most likely going to die. But years ago, we would have all been in packs. You with your pack of 400 humans, saber-toothed tiger comes along, you got a chance to survive. We need each other. Now the saber-toothed tiger is the friend that you're not going to go and have a beer with on a Friday after work. Now the saber-toothed tiger is the people that judge your Instagram if you're about to start speaking out publicly. So there's no actual physical threat, but the body still resonates as dangerous, threat, not belonging, I'm not safe, I won't be okay. So it's really normal that you are scared to tell your mate that on Fridays you don't want to go for beers anymore. And it doesn't have to be, in my opinion, sayonara, I'm out of here, you're not my friend anymore. You can invite and enroll your friends into coming with you because you're about to expand and grow and step into a better version of you in your life and be a better human. Some people might want to come. Some people are not going to want to grow. Some people like their pain and their misery and their suffering, and misery loves company. So they're not going to be the ones that are saying, yeah, awesome, I love that you're not drinking on a Friday. They're going to be like, come on, mate, you serious? Don't be boring. Eat, come on, eat the stuff, drink the stuff, take the stuff, inject the stuff. Like, it's not a big deal. We're having a good time. But if you know that you're not a yes to it, what the beautiful thing about closing that door is you get to go through the discomfort of being alone. A lot of people have that fear. Women that I work with, when they're like, I'm no longer dating the toxic guy, the fuck boy, the one that doesn't respect me, the one that just calls me up at 10 p.m. at night because he wants a booty call. When they're like, no, I actually deserve more. When we start saying no to what isn't for us, our yes doesn't just immediately appear. My best friend isn't going to show up tomorrow. My husband isn't going to walk through the front door tomorrow. There's going to be space. And in the space, all my fears are going to show up. Do I belong? Am I alone? Where do I fit in this world? But then you're going to actually go out and find what lights you up, what makes the sober version of you feel good, what makes a healthy version of me feel good, what kind of people are attracted to that. I love fitness. I could join a volleyball team or a tennis team. I make friends there. A personal development team, a business mastermind, I'm going to make friends there. And next minute, you've got lots of friends that love to do what you love to do, that have similar mindsets and values that are aligned with the things that you love doing. Back in Bali, all my female friends are entrepreneurs, have a value for lifestyle, a value for being an empowered woman, a value for making a lot of money, a value for giving their gifts. We all have a great time. We all support each other because we're in the same environment where we attract common values. So in the pub is potentially not the people with the kind of values you want to bring with you to the future you're stepping towards.
I love that, Bek. And then moving from friendships to relationships, one of the things that's quite common in our community is a woman will stop drinking. Mm-hmm. The man doesn't stop drinking. Mm-hmm. The woman starts working on her self-development, her growth, her evolution, trying to become more conscious. Guy don't give two fucks. How can you give some advice, some clarity around that decision on whether to leave or whether to stay when you're stuck in that kind of like that difficulty? You know, your kids, you got a car, you got a fucking cat, you got this guy who's not pulling his weight. How do you know when to leave or when to stay?
I've always asked women when they're conflicted with staying in a relationship of, do you choose him? And women, when they're like, this is my man, they're like, yes, immediately. Like, this is the most excruciating experience. And he's a dick. But yeah, I choose him. I think that's a great question to ask yourself, because if there's hesitation, the hesitation's pointing towards something. And if there is hesitation, but you're like, well, there's hesitation, but if there was growth here, then yes. But if there's not growth and this has a timeline and I have an exit date, you really get to get clear about what that timeline and exit looks like so it can be communicated. And for completely different context, but I had an ex-partner, amazing guy, and the one place that my cup wasn't filled was our sex and our intimacy, and he wasn't available to work on it. And so in our relationship, it wasn't me. He was too busy with work, too busy with business, and that cup was staying really dry, really empty. It's a high value for me. So it got to a point where I was like, I'm going to have to, as great as you are and as much as I love you, this is non-negotiable for me now and I can't stay. And so at that point, he was like, let's work on this. And so he did start trying, but he started trying kind of too little too late. And so whilst the cup was being filled up, it was getting filled up really slowly. And I realized the slow pace of the growth would have been okay if it had started happening 3 years prior. But 3 years later, the slow pour of the cup was too slow for me. So knowing what cups need to be poured into together and the rate at which you're going to be okay with for you to feel like progress is being made and you're stepping forward towards a future that feels good for you, and you being able to communicate that is probably going to be really powerful for the both of you.
It sounded to me then like in that relationship, you really knew what you wanted and you knew what a relationship looked like for you. And I imagine there's a lot of people out there that don't, and that it then becomes a real problem, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big advocate for the worthy, empowered, abundant woman who knows who she is, knows what she wants, knows what her boundaries are, knows what her standards are, knows what her values are, knows what integrity uniquely means to her, and then walking about the world like that. And I really feel that when we betray those parts of us, if I said something on here that felt out of alignment with me, I'm a confident communicator. You're not going to know that. But I am, because I'm like, oh, that didn't feel good. Or that wasn't actually true. Or that say you asked me a question, I'm an open book, but say you asked me a question, I wasn't available for it and I forced myself to answer because I didn't want to let you down. My internal narrative would be like, there you go, Rebecca. So just answering questions, even though your boundary was a no to that question, couldn't you just speak up and say, hey, would you mind asking me something different? I'd prefer not to go there today. Like, we notice within ourselves when we don't honor our truth. So it's so important. I really believe that women know what they want. I feel like and the protector part of our nervous system and our personality that wants us to avoid doing the hard thing can convince us that we're confused. I don't really know if I want to be with him. Like, my truth with my ex was I knew it was over and it was coming to an end long before I actually took action on it. But I was afraid of the pain of separation. I was afraid of the pain of jealousy, seeing him with someone else, carry this wound that I'm going to leave him and he's going to go and give exactly what I wanted from him to the next woman. And then I'm going to believe that there's something wrong about me, and that's going to be so painful to be with. I didn't want to be with all of those feelings. I felt too hard to didn't want the person I love to be with another woman. That was my truth. And so I avoided all of that by being like, we can work on it. He's saying that he'll be available for it once business isn't so busy. But my truth was I knew, and I didn't want to do the hard thing.
You didn't want to do the hard thing. So much truth in that. What's been the biggest challenge you've faced this year, Bek, personally?
Biggest challenge I have faced this year. This year's been a really great year for me. I fell in love with Austin when I was there for 3 months, and I didn't want to leave. And so I had to really, Preston always says to me, what are you choosing? And even though you may want to choose something right now, if so many other things are on top of you, then is that really the best choice? Or do you have to let that choice go, knowing that it will come back later? And so I wanted to stay in Austin. My visa was up. I had to leave. And this is very first world. Like, it wasn't a problem. It was just I found a place where I was just like, I'm so at home. And so I had to say no to what I really want because it just wasn't the right choice for me then. And that felt really hard. And also now that my finances are just improving, I have a really great relationship with creating money, but I have an inner child that feels so terrible for anyone. Money's a big wound from my childhood. I have a dad who came from a really poor Italian family and a narrative that there's not enough. So I just want to save everyone with it. It's a little girl part of me. And then I have a rebellious inner teenager that is kind of like, fuck you, dad. I can earn what I want and do what I want. So I've got her that, like, I'm in a 3-story villa right now in Bali and I'm the only one that lives in it. And I'm like, did you really need 3 stories, Rebecca? Did you? So healing the both of them, because I noticed as more money is being created, a little bit of fear of like, I've got this inner child that wants to save, then a rebellious teenager that wants to spend, and not really knowing who to go to for support. Because when it comes to money, we're again left very confused. I'm getting told 10 million different things by 10 million different friends who are entrepreneurs and investors of what to do. So that's been there's been a big part of me that's like, avoid it. Don't just keep making it. Don't worry about addressing it. So that's been hard because this is such a wound from my childhood.
On the finances, like, I'm just picturing a household where the man has the majority of the say on what the woman is spending, or
yes,
there's a little shame being brought in when the woman buys things that the man, money can be such a difficult conversation for a family. Like, given what you've learned this year about healing and the healing journey of your financial story, any advice you could give to people out there, especially women who have a story around finances that just isn't serving them? Like, what would maybe the 1 or 2 things that really helped you to turn it around?
Number one, if we're not informed, we don't feel empowered. So the same with me. Like, I've learned how to create money. Awesome. That's a great skill set. Let's go. But now I don't yet know what to do with it. And so someone once said to me, if you don't know what to do, you don't know enough. So read a fucking book. So, I could trust. I've been asking all my friends who are entrepreneurs and they're all telling me 10 different things. So do I just hope for the best and just pick the one that I trust the most and do what he said? Or do I go and research and empower myself? And we've spoken about doing the hard thing. My rebellious teenager definitely doesn't want to read a book. She's like, boring. But that's actually going to be the place that I'm most empowered. So that's one. If you don't know, learn. There is nothing that you can't, there is no skill that you can't attain. Like, I created my coaching business. This will be my first $1 million year. And I created my coaching business from debt in a pandemic with my mum telling me to go to government benefits because I couldn't afford to pay my rent. And so if someone can start from scratch, you can too. You can too. And we can't, if you don't have the energetic body, like, I've been healing all my shame. The herpes was the first part. Then my anger towards men. I was so mad at them. I believe that they were the reasons for my pain. My ex-boyfriend punched me in my head when I was 19, knocked me unconscious. The person that gave me herpes lied to me about it. My ex-boyfriend that didn't listen to my needs was the one that I believe, pushed me into the arms of the man that gave me herpes. I was just mad. I was like, I did nothing wrong. I just tried to love these men and they hurt me. And I was just in so much blame that men did this to me. I had to heal that because I was walking about life really believing that men were the reason for my internal pain. And so there was no space for relationship when I'm looking at men like they've created my internal pain. There's no space for abundance if we're walking around filled with shame. So I would heal the parts that hurt you and know that your joy is such a gift to the world and yourself. And if you follow it, I really believe that there's so much abundance available on the other side of that. And no matter what the term abundance means to you, for me, it's my first $1 million year this year. But for some people, it's $50,000, $100,000, $65,000, $1 billion. Your unique definition of abundance is available for you if you follow your internal North Node, your desires and your joy.
What a beautiful place to end, Bek. Thank you for all the work that you do. Tell the people out there, how can these amazing women in the world benefit from the work that you're doing and the energy that you're putting out there? How can they get hold of you? What can they do? What are you offering at the moment?
Yeah, I'm just about to launch a new mastermind in 2025, but I always have something going on. So you're welcome to come over to my personal page at Bek Antonucci. I have a podcast. It's on all listening platforms. It's on YouTube, Raw, Real, and Vulnerable. And ideally, you're just going to receive some amount of inspiration and or motivation for you to live your most lit up and authentic life. And yeah, my DMs are always open. So feel free to connect.
Bek, thanks for coming on. It's been a really treat to catch up to you, and I wish you all the best in the future, man.
I can't wait to share. Thank you so much for having me on today.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. Just a few thank yous. First of all, I want to thank you guys and girls for listening to this podcast and being supporters of it. Many people stop drinking alcohol just by listening to this podcast. I get a lot of people reaching out to me, thanking me for that, right? So give this to somebody as a gift today, or rate and review the podcast. If you can rate and review the podcast on your local podcast player and tell somebody about it, you could change somebody's life today, okay? So thank you for listening, and thank you in advance for that piece of service. Also want to thank our producer, Stan. Stan is still currently in the Ukraine, fighting the war and producing our podcast while his family is somewhere else in the world right now, okay, apart from him. So everybody send out your prayers and your love. Stan, we love you. Thank you very much for everything you do here. For you out there, if you are starting to think about, contemplate, reflect on your relationship with alcohol, you do not have to do this alone. Yes, you drink alone, but you don't have to stop alone, okay? And if alcohol is not your thing, but you are starting to feel that you actually are living a parts-led life, the ego is getting in the way too much, so you're not happy with the way life is going, then reach out to us at thestrivemethod@gmail.com. Just say, Lee, and just tell me what is on your mind, and we'll start to have that conversation. Strive community is a beautiful place where you can start to feel seen, heard, and matter. It's where you can get community, and it's where you can start practicing what we call the 8 C's of self, our core values, right? Of creativity, curiosity, connection, compassion, courage. I can't remember the rest of them, but there's 8 of them, right? And we have our quest structured. So we have assignments, and they're really interesting, exciting. At the end of them, we say to you, come on, do this quest, right? Get involved in this challenge. And strivers are really finding it exciting, and they're working their challenges in these areas that are going to increase the amount of time they spend in self-energy, in a state of flow. And that has amazing repercussions for the relationship you grow with yourself, and for how you reach out to others in their life, like how you parent, how you are as a child to your, not child, but a son or a daughter, how you are in your relationship with the person you share your bed with, and how you behave with your employees, right? So reach out to me at strivemethod@gmail.com if you want to learn more. Okay, much love, everybody.